this Microsoft really teasing SEGA acquisition? That's what many people believe. So let's look into this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So as we are approaching the end of Xbox Activision acquisition saga, many people turn their attention to the next acquisition target for Microsoft, like SEGA. And actually SEGA makes a lot of sense for Microsoft, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But the latest leak rumor suggests that, well, there's a tease that Microsoft did that suggests that, hey, they are buying SEGA. Now, I don't really believe that's really the case. I mean, I don't think that this particular thing is a tease of SEGA acquisition, because what happened apparently is that Microsoft started advertising Sonic, because I think a new Sonic game is coming or something like that. So they started advertising or showing Sonic in the Bing search or one of the Microsoft browsers or something like that, right? So obviously, people started talking about it, and I guess it kind of, I understand why maybe, but not really, because the fact that they started showing Sonic somewhere in the browser doesn't necessarily mean that they are buying SEGA. But, we also need to remember that Xbox has this, long-term partnership with SEGA now, and they will be, providing. I mean, I presume they are already providing tools to make SEGA games for SEGA, right? So, who knows? Maybe that particular tease is actually part of that big partnership, right? I don't know. Like, either way, this particular tease doesn't necessarily mean that Xbox buys SEGA, but I think they will still, let's just move away from that particular tease. Now, there's many reasons behind that. Like, first off, SEGA was on Microsoft to buy list. Now, obviously, that doesn't, the fact that SEGA was on that list doesn't necessarily mean that SEGA wanted to be bought and that kind of stuff. But I'm sure that there were some talks about it. SEGA has been preparing themselves for, I guess, they were restructuring things and kind of moving away from Sammy, I think, a little bit too. People like analysts thought that maybe SEGA is getting ready to be, sold. That still hasn't happened, and obviously after the latest leak about SEGA being on Microsoft list to buy list, SEGA did come out and say, no, that's not true. There's no plans for that now. And I think that was actually the biggest thing to talk about really back then, that that he said now, right? So who knows? Maybe they were in talks. Maybe some people, like Lord Addict, for example, in his latest video, he suggested that maybe they were in talks. Maybe Microsoft really wanted to buy SEGA, but then Activision Blizzard King deal popped up, and they said, okay, so let's take that deal, SEGA acquisition, on hold. Let's grab Activision, and we'll come back to talks with SEGA later, right? I mean, they've got this huge partnership anyway, so I don't think SEGA is going anywhere. SEGA acquisition actually is more than possible in my opinion. Not necessarily now, and I don't think that Microsoft will just, announce the Activision Blizzard King acquisition and next day they will announce that they are actually buying SEGA. I don't think that's going to happen, because it would be very difficult. A difficult pill to swallow even for regulators, in my opinion. But maybe next year, maybe in 2 years' time, stuff. I would not be surprised if they come back to these talks if they actually did happen. And SEGA actually makes a lot of sense for many reasons. First off, Xbox needs Asian presence, so in Japan and in these Asian markets, and SEGA is a Japanese company, and that would be a huge leverage for Microsoft to actually promote Xbox and whatever. I mean, I've seen some cool ideas of rebranding Xbox brand in Japan to Sega. So instead of Xbox Series X, they would be selling Sega Series X. Actually, and you know what? From PR's perspective, that would be a huge that would be a huge thing for Microsoft. And this is not the first time that happened in like with other products. Like for example, let's talk about like car industry. So in Europe we've got Opel, right? It's a German car, but in Britain, in UK, they call it Vauxhall, right? I mean, you know, I don't know the full story behind the history of that name change, but yeah, that happened before, and it's all for PR reasons, right? Apparently, Opel didn't really sell well, but once they, after World War II, and after they changed their name to Vauxhall, yeah, then, you know, because it was German, then, you know, they were fine. You know, British people were fine with buying it. Apparently, that's the history. But so. It's same with Xbox, right? I mean, you know, if they started selling Xbox consoles as Sega, you know, like, you know, we know that that's still Xbox. A lot of hardcore fans still knows that would be Xbox. But for casual gamers, hey, Sega just produced a new console. Can you believe how many people would actually buy this in Japan and Asia? Actually, you know what? I wouldn't actually mind even rebranding Xbox as Sega. I mean, no joke. Like, I am a Sega fan. I used to be honest with you, their consoles. But that's actually a cool idea. And so that's that. Like, Xbox needs that. Japanese presence. Also, they've got this partnership with Sega, so they are working together already. So, you know, looks like there's a good relationship between these two companies. Another thing is that like Sega has always been very close to Microsoft. They were competing with Sony. I mean, Sony actually, kind of kicked them out of the business. And I know that it's all Sega fault because it's not about PlayStation 2. I mean, you know, Sega made a lot of mistakes, and you know, really, they are the ones to be blamed for that. But obviously, you know, great launch of PlayStation 2 didn't help them much. Dreamcast was a fantastic console, to be honest with you. But anyway, once they exit console market, hardware market, you know, they were they had this huge relationship with Xbox. So the Xbox actually took them on board, really. And also Dreamcast did run on Microsoft Windows, to be honest with you. That's actually a cool thing to remember. A lot of Sega games actually released on Xbox. Like Xbox was actually, and for many Xbox fans, for many Sega fans, Xbox was that Dreamcast 2, really, right? And it makes sense. I'm actually planning a video about it because like there's a lot to talk about it here. Yeah, a lot of Sega games were released on Xbox, and yeah, this relationship kind of washed out later, and Sega started focusing more on platform leader Sony. But that relationship was there, right? There was a huge relationship as at the start of first Xbox generation console, right? So it all makes sense, and hey, I mean. Also, Sega has a huge PC presence. They've got some big PC developers, like they make strategy games and that kind of stuff. Football Manager is owned by Sega. It's huge on PC. So Sega acquisition really makes a lot of sense on many levels. And another one, Rovio. Sega is just finishing acquisition of Rovio. So that's another mobile developer having huge presence in the mobile space. Another win for Microsoft. So really, Sega makes so much sense for Xbox as a brand, and hey, guys, I'll be coming back to that idea of rebranding Xbox brand as a Sega, at least in Japan. I mean, can you believe? And hey, just call Xbox Series X Dreamcast 2. Hey. It would sell like hotcakes, honestly. So anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do believe that Microsoft will end up buying Sega. Not right now. They still need to figure out things with Bethesda. Still, can you believe it, after all these years? Well, 2 years. They still need to figure out a way to manage Activision Blizzard King. It's, you know, that deal is pretty much done. I think it's just a matter of time. And you know, they need to, so like, bring in another huge publisher on board. Yeah, would be a tricky thing to do. So I think they will wait a little bit, and you know, next year, maybe in 2 years' time, they may actually end up buying Sega. That would not, I would not be surprised. So guys, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.